Hey everybody, this is Colin Murphy and welcome to Colin Podcasting About Real Estate Show 39. My guest today is Linda McKissack, who is a phenomenal investor and coach and has a really inspirational story. This has been one of my favorite shows so far and I think you're going to really like it. Before we dig into that though, what am I up to? I'm still flipping houses. I'm still working on launching a land flipping sideline to buy land in the northern suburbs of Tampa. I'm really looking forward to that. My new website might be live by the time this comes out, but I'm going to wait until it is before letting you know. But very excited about that. We have a few houses under renovation at the minute. I have a couple that are occupied that I'm working on evictions, which isn't as easy as it used to be, but Florida is still a very pro-landlord state, and generally takes about $800 and 40 days to evict someone. I have one. It's kind of a funny story. I bought it off this lady. Her son used to live in it with his girlfriend, and then they split up and they moved out of the house. But the girlfriend moved back in there with a new boyfriend, and they decided that they weren't going to pay any rent. So obviously the mother didn't like this, the son didn't like this. They couldn't talk them out of it, and the new boyfriend ended up inviting a bunch of his loser friends in there as well. Apparently there was drugs involved, and these guys were a bunch of deadbeats and just been living in this house for a few months without paying any rent, without paying any attention to people that were knocking on their door telling them to leave. So I stepped in and said, I'll buy that. I got it for a good price, and now I'm in the process of getting them out. And when I do, I tell you, the neighbors are going to be very happy. The lady was very happy to wash her hands of it. And just funny. But these are the kinds of things you deal with. I'm not bothered about it. I haven't even seen inside the house. I haven't been inside the house once. I don't have any photos of what the house looks like inside at all. I am just assuming that it's going to need everything. I'm assuming it needs new floors, kitchens, bathrooms, fans, lights, roof, AC, all the rest of it. I've budgeted for it. I've bought it cheap enough to cover all of that and still make a nice profit. And it would also make potentially a very nice buy and hold. So yeah, there's one thing that I'm working on at the moment among many. But getting back to Linda McKissack, she's from very, very modest background. And she's built multiple businesses. She built a tremendous amount of wealth. I think she's got over 100 rental properties now, as well as commercial buildings. And she owns or runs a bunch of Keller Williams franchises, major Keller Williams franchises that bring in multi-million-dollar incomes to herself and her husband. And it all, started from one business. They started off, building restaurants and nightclubs. They lost a ton of money, had to dig themselves out of a very big hole, and that was their transition into real estate. And Linda will be the first to admit that she didn't get everything right the first time, but she had a tremendous work ethic and relied a lot on mentors and goal setting. And she's got a fantastic story. I think you're going to get a lot out of it. I really enjoyed it. So I'm not going to tell you too much more about it. Let's just head on over and see what Linda has to say. Linda McKissack, how are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great, Colin. How about you?
I'm fine. I have nothing whatsoever to complain about. It is a sunny Friday in Tampa, Florida. It's all good.
Awesome.
So tell us a bit about yourself, Linda. Where did you grow up? Did you come from an entrepreneurial family?
No, actually, I did not. I say that. Probably the best word to describe my family would be dysfunction, lots of alcoholism and dysfunction. So I would probably start with that. But then I would also say, actually my dad and my brothers had a tear down construction building business when I was growing up. And you actually, as a kid, had to go help. You had your part. I always hated the girl parts because I wanted to be on top of the roof like my brothers. And of course,
Yeah.
The girl and I was the youngest, I had to stay on the ground and pull nails or clean brick or, some crazy things like that. But, when I look back on that, I guess that was really entrepreneurial because he did work for himself. And, it taught me a great work ethic. And, I appreciate that today because we all know to get where we're going, there are times in your life when you have to really be willing to buckle down and work hard.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite priceless commodity to have a natural work ethic kind of hammered into you from a young age. It's kind of difficult to learn it in your 30s or your 20s, you know? It takes a lot more effort.
Yeah, so true. And I think by the time you wait and learn it, then you're a little bit behind the eight ball, right? For all the people
Hmm.
who actually already kind of figured out, okay, working means I got to get up early. Working means I got to work hard, and and I've got to, be a good worker for whoever's paying me, and those kind of things. You learn those earlier, the earlier you actually go to work. So yeah, so grew up with mostly a dad and two brothers, and then, once I'd probably say the tipping point for me was in my early 20s. No one in my family had ever owned a house. No one in my family
Okay.
had ever owned a rent house or our own house. So I was very naive to real estate.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, knew nothing about it, had never even heard about it. And then in my early 20s, my husband, who I was married to as my second marriage, actually came to me one day and said, we're in a problem because we have $600,000 worth of debt, like overnight. And the reason we had that is he was an entrepreneur. He owned restaurants and nightclubs.
Oh,
And but the economy crashed in Texas in the late 80s, early 90s. And so just like COVID, it was a gradually and then suddenly that can happen in your life, right? And I
mm-hmm.
always say those can be the worst thing that ever happened to you, or they can wind up being the best thing that ever happened to you. And it actually became the best thing because it made us realize that your cash flow can go away tomorrow, right? And so you needed to have passive income to step in case something like that happened. And at that time we had none. So we had actually had to sell a business for 600,000 less than we owed against it. So it kind of put us in a really tough situation. I always say it's never marriage enriching when you're that far in debt. You find
No.
money and you're lucky if your marriage makes it. But anyway, but that was kind of the catapult, I think, that actually made my ears be ready to hear about what do wealthy people do, so that
Mm-hmm.
gradually and suddenly shows up in your life, you're prepared differently. And so I always say, everything in life can either be the greatest blessing or the greatest tragedy. It depends on if you're going to get the lessons that you're supposed to be getting from it and what do you do with
Mm-hmm.
it. So that really kind of catapulted us to even be interested in what do wealthy people do. And the very first thing we discovered that wealthy people do is they buy real estate.
Yeah. That's
So
true. So this is 30 years ago. I mean, 600,000 is a lot of money now. It must have been maybe the equivalent of three times as much at least back then. And I mean, did your husband have to go through bankruptcy, or were you able to get out relatively unscathed? Because that would affect your ability to buy real estate, clearly.
Well, the beautiful thing is, because I always like to say I was only 23 years old. My husband's 9 years older than me. He had already been in the
Hmm.
entrepreneurial world. He was actually the first real entrepreneur that I'd ever been introduced to, and would just love the fact that you could do multiple things and have multiple streams of income coming in until your biggest one stops, right?
Yeah.
But the blessing there was because he needed help instantly. He said, I need you to go to work. And I immediately looked at my resume and said, I've never made more than minimum wage, rather than unless I was waitressing or bartending for your nightclubs. So what do
Yeah.
you should do? That's a lot of money. And the good thing about being 23 is I always like to say, I didn't even know what the word economy meant, much less is it a good one or a bad one. But when he started sweating the bankers, I knew we were in trouble. And so it was his suggestion that I actually even get into real estate and start selling. And it would happen to be a great fit. So as I would get into real estate, and once I kind of got it figured out by doing
Hmm.
exactly what you're doing, interviewing, talking to other people who were successful and say, how did you do that? And then
Yeah.
whatever you tell me, I'd just go do. I wouldn't question because I didn't have any time to question. Then I would start to do pretty good in real estate. And over time, back then, because the economy was built on real estate, oil and gas, and savings and loans. And in savings and loans debacle is one of the big things
Yeah.
that
That was
happened.
back at the same time in the early 90s, right?
Yes. And so because of that, your bankers would actually eventually come to you and say, look, hey, if you'll give us 40 cents on the dollar on this note, we'll discount it and let's get it off our books before, the auditors come. And so we were really blessed in the fact that we actually never had to file bankruptcy. We did have to downsize everything. We got rid of our nice cars. We got the beat up cars. We just lived as lean as we could possibly live. We pulled as much cash out of the nightclubs that he still had available. I went to work in real estate, and then eventually my business got good enough that he actually just stepped away from the nightclub business and joined me in the real estate business. But we were just blessed in the fact that with the RTC properties, which is the foreclosure entity back then that had savings and loans properties, they actually would discount their, if the banker came to you, they'd discount a note. And that gave us a chance over time to get all of that money paid back at a discount. And then the interesting thing is our very first investment property was not our first, but our second was an RTC property that was
ironic.
Yeah. So, and we still have that property today, and we laugh because it brings in more money paid off today than Jimmy's 40 years of working and getting Social Security. So one property, wound up being way more than he would eventually make on his Social Security amount that he gets from the government for working.
So when you're 24 and you're saying you're in real estate, did you start off just acting as a realtor, buying, helping people to buy and sell houses? Did you do that for a long time before you just started, investing in your own houses?
I actually started selling real estate in '86, and we bought a house, I think in the end of 1991 or 92. And because we were still climbing our way out of $600,000 in debt, because I didn't do great in the very beginning. I always like to say I only made $3,000 gross my first year in real estate. Jimmy goes, "This is gross. I spent 15 for you to make 3. This is not good math, right?" No. But back then, Colin, there was no training. There were no podcasts you could listen to of successful people. I mean, literally, I eventually found people that I could get in front of that were successful, but I had to get on a plane, which when you don't have a lot of money, that's hard to do. Get on a plane and go all the way to California and listen to where the economy was good and people were flourishing. What do these people do? And then come back to Texas. And as I began to apply that, I actually began to really, because I'm a hard worker. It wasn't about the hard work. It's just I wasn't doing the right things that were giving me the results. So once I got that figured out, then the money started coming in. And
so what key insights did you get from those early mentors that enabled you to make that switch from earning 3,000 to, doing well?
I would say probably the same secrets that it takes to build a big investment portfolio. What relationships do you need to have? Who are the people that you either need to learn from, be a hero to, hang around, all the things that have to do with a relationship. Who do you need to, have as leverage in your life? Because when God only gave us all 24 hours, he didn't give me 48 or you 48. He gave us all 24. So very quickly, you have to learn how to leverage your time and your money. Those two things are the most precious resources that we can leverage that will give us a leg up or give us an advantage over time, right? It builds and has momentum and compounds. So, I would say that. And then what is my validity? If I'm going to be a hero to someone who wants to sell real estate, how am I valid to those people? And how can I continue to work on my validity? What books do I need to be reading? What classes do I need to be taking? Who do I need to hang out with? So I become smarter and can add more value to whoever I'm trying to be a hero to. Or in the case of investing, how do I get my money in a situation so that when someone I always like to say, when somebody goes in our book, Hold, we wrote the 4 Ds: distress, drugs, death, and divorce. Those always cause people to sell their house at a discount, right?
Yep.
So if I'm going to be a hero to those people, I have to have my crap together. I have to have money on the sideline ready to go, because those people need someone who can step in and get them out of that situation so they can go have a fresh new start. And so that's my validity if I'm the investor. And then what are people's value gaps? What problems are they trying to solve that if I go in and help them self-discover, I'm the person to help them do that. I'm going to win that business, or I'm going to win that house, or whatever. And then I just do that over time, over and over and over and over again, till I get the results that I want. And I think,
fantastic.
I think you just learn, what were some of the lessons other people learned that you can try to not have to learn the hard way yourself, right? You're going to get some yourself, but what can I learn from you, Colin? Just even our conversation that you and I had the other day, I was talking to my husband. I'm like, this is kind of interesting what he does, and so we learn from each other. And I think part of what you have to do is surround yourself with people who are on that same journey that you're on, and learn from them and help them and teach them, and you teach each other.
It does. It has a real multiplier effect. I mean, the amount you can do networking with people and the amount you can do on your own, there's just an enormous difference in what you can achieve in that, using the same time. I mean, you can use your 6 hours to network with 10 other clever people, or you can use it to try and figure out stuff all by yourself. I know which one is more productive, right?
Right, exactly.
So what kind of deals were you doing in the mid 90s and early noughties? What kind of stuff were you doing to build your wealth and earn income and help people?
Well, because we were still climbing our way out of debt, there was no way, I'm the kind of person that once I set a goal, I always say, for me, it's the good Lord, and everything else in the world shapes up in a way to help me get that goal. But I got to be paying attention, and I got to be ready for the opportunity. Right. And so sure enough, we put a plan together. Our first passive income goal was 250,000. We wanted, by the time my husband was 60 and he was almost 40 when we started, we wanted to have 250,000 coming in passively. So we just worked it backwards and said, in our area, that would be 20 properties free and clear, bringing us somewhere around $1,000 or more a month. That would put us what we needed. And so once I had that in my mind, I believe the opportunities are already out there. But if you haven't already made a decision and set a goal, I don't know that you're going to be ready or see those opportunities. And so because we had done that, the first deal came up instantly. It was a flip, and it had issues. It had major issues. The people had already moved out. And I went home all excited and told my husband, I found us a deal. We can make $15,000 on this house, and he said, that's great, Linda, but I can't go to the bank and get any money. And we don't have any money. And so I went to sleep that night. And when I woke up the next morning, my builder, Lou Craft's name was on my brain. And so I said, I'm going to call Lou, and Lou, I think, will do it with me. He trusted me. I trusted him. We had a great relationship. And I just went to him and said, Lou, I think we can make $15,000 on this house. We'll pay you whatever construction fees you need, fixing it up. I'll throw in my commission because that's all I got, and we'll flip this house. And so we flipped that house, and almost to the day that we sold it, a girl in my office came to me and said, hey, there's a property by the University of North Texas, and they want $15,000 for it. It's in really bad shape, but they want $15,000. And so we took Lou over there and said, let's don't spend the money. Let's put it on this property. And he looked at it and said, hey, I think I can make this a fourplex. So it's so funny. We bought that house, and then we bought one more close to the women's college within the next year or so with Lou. And because we had flipped the first one, that left us with two properties. We eventually, when we split up our partnership with Lou, we said, look, we wouldn't be here without you. Which property do you want? And we'll take the other one. So he picked the second one that we had held, and we picked the first one. And that's the one that pays in more money than Jimmy makes in Social Security. So you find a way, you find a partnership, or you find, that you're either driving, wearing, eating or something, the money that you need to do the deal, right?
Yeah.
It's there somewhere.
I agree. No, if you have that goal and you're determined to do it, the path is in front of you. I agree. And we can dig into that in a little bit. But before that, I want to talk about, there's a lot of hard workers out there, and there's a lot of people that know how to earn good money. But if they ever stop, or they can't stop, or they can't take a month off, or they can't take 2 months off, I think it seems to require an enormous mindset shift to focus from earning money to investing in something that you can build. I mean, can you talk to us about that, about why so many people just default to earning money and don't think about how do I build wealth instead?
That is the $1 million question, is it not? I think a couple of things. We have a freedom number worksheet, and one of the key parts on that worksheet for people is, Colin, asking the questions, what are life's unexpecteds? Because I don't think anybody realizes that if you live long enough, you will experience everything in your life, right? And so some of that is going to be a gradually and suddenly that you need to be in a different financial situation for. It could be your parents getting older and they run out of money, because I do believe we're going to do a better job of keeping people alive longer than we have of teaching them how to have enough money to live off of, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so some of those people will actually be our own friends and family. And, there are some cool things that you can do if you've prepared, and so I think we don't spend enough time looking 20 years into our future and say, what do I want my life to look like? What do I want to be able to give to without any consideration? Who
Hmm.
might I need to help financially that would just give me great joy if I could, pay off their house and give them a life estate, or things like that. Or, if someone gets sick, and I got to be with them for 10 or 11 months, how do I do that if I don't have enough
Hmm.
money passively? I just don't think we spend enough time, you know, I'm a backup plan person, I might have
Right.
the gig in the world going on, but because I've lived early on to see that gradually and suddenly can happen so quickly, I'm always preparing for that suddenly. I think COVID will help us. I think two things people will come out of COVID wanting to be in better position for in the future: wealth and health. And I think that's going to be kind of a wake up call for a lot more people, because not
Yeah.
everybody goes through an economic downturn. Uh, but some people have now woken up because they realize COVID, it could have affected their industry if it didn't.
Yes.
And
Yeah. With real estate being a prime example,
yeah, exactly. So I think we just need to spend a little more time in the future with ourselves and say, if I don't do anything, do I like what my future looks like? Or what if I woke up one day and just wanted options? I wanted to work because I want to, not because I have to. That feels different.
And is that where people should start, just thinking about their future self, where they want to be, and work backwards from there, and that gives them the
Yeah.
why, and then they just need to figure out a strategy, which they can do by talking to people like you, right?
And what's your freedom number? What's a number that if you could get to that number passively, your decisions would be very different, because you're working because you want to, not because you have to. And if you
Hmm.
want to keep working and you love what you do, there's always a need for that money somewhere else. So what would you give it to, or who would you help? And so I think yes, freedom number, everybody should come up with a freedom number, and everybody should think about their lives 20 years from now. And if I don't do anything differently, what will be my options?
So you mentioned a little while ago that you came up with your freedom number when your husband was 40, of $250,000 in passive income that you hoped to achieve by the time he was 60. So how did that work out?
Well, we very far surpassed it, and it's interesting because, I know a lot of people, Colin, myself included, and you may relate to this. I used to really struggle when people would say to me, okay, Linda, how much is enough? I'm a natural born achiever. I wake up and I just want to achieve, right? And I want to achieve more, right? And I used to equate that to mean a dollar amount. And then I realized it really has nothing to do with the dollar amount. I had a really great mentor, Gary Keller, who's mentored me for years. And he freed me up one day when I couldn't understand why people couldn't understand me. They would say, well, Linda, when is enough enough? I mean, why do you keep, achieving and all that stuff? And I couldn't answer that for myself, but I just knew that was important to me. Right. And, a lot of times that's people in your own family who are opposite of you, who want to go to work at 8, they want to get off at 5, they don't want any other responsibility, they don't want to have to do anything else, and they totally love that life, right? I would want to kill myself if that was my life, right?
Yeah.
So my mentor Gary said to me, he said, Linda, life is about becoming. And the way you become is you get up every day and you go out there and you try to achieve. Sports teams don't win one championship and go back and say, well, we're done. They go back out on the field and they see who else they can become. And that was a freeing moment for me, because two things. One, I believe when you bring value to the world, you can't keep the money away.
True.
Money is a byproduct of the value you bring into the world, right? And I realized that what I've enjoyed and loved more than anything else is who I'm becoming along this journey. As I get up and I fall down and I try and I fail, and then I get to become someone else, and then I get to help other people try to do it.
Hmm.
So I think once you look at it through those lens, I think everybody's wired differently, and there is no right or wrong, right? There are certain people out there that when they get to whatever that number is, they are done. They are truly, and that is totally okay because that's who they are, right? And then there's the other entrepreneur that says, okay, I've accomplished that. Now what else can I accomplish?
Yeah, I have a feeling that the people that accomplish their goals, I think, is there only a very, very small percentage that say, okay, I've got it, I'm done. I think the majority of people will say, well, what's the next goal? What can I do next? You know?
Yeah, I don't know what the percentages are, because you and I've talked about Strategic Coach, what a great program it is. Dan says there's literally two kinds of entrepreneurs. There's the entrepreneur that is making more money than they ever thought they'd make. And when they get to $1, they start distracting their mind and going into other things, whether it be, whatever other interests that they have, no right or wrong. That's just what they do. And then there's this other group that says, wow, that now becomes my floor. I wonder what else I can go accomplish. And I think it's just kind of the way you're wired. But I don't know what the percentage is, right? I know in my business, I'm looking for that person that I need those people in my life that are territory takers and wealth builders that want to go out and build more. They want to go see what else is the next ceiling.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot of people that just really want to get started, that they agree that real estate is a path to wealth, that they can't just keep working 9 to 5 and expect things to be great. But people often tie themselves in knots trying to figure out when is the best time to buy. Should I buy when prices are going up? Should I buy when prices are going down? I mean, what's your advice for people to get past that? I mean, what is the right time to buy? What's your take on that?
Well, I love that question, Colin, because we wrote the book Hold, which says you hold a property long term, because that whatever your dollar amount is, you won't come in passively. Our strategy is to do it through real estate investing with single family homes, and you hold them. Because if you hold something long enough, we like to say we've never lost a penny on anything that we held long enough, right?
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Markets go down. And because our strategy is just a simple person strategy, in other words, we don't have magic, complicated formulas. Our formula is it's a good deal the day we buy it. So we're buying it. Let's say I buy it under 10% value, then I'm going to put another, 10% in or 20% in to make it a 70-30 loan to value ratio to keep myself safe. Right. What if I buy it, by the way, some of them we bought 30% below value in 08, 09, 10, then we didn't have to put as much money down to have that 70-30 loan to value ratio. And it cash flows the day we buy it. And appreciation is not something we bet on. It's icing on the cake. It's a gift later. So when you do those things, you're truly an investor. You're not a speculator. Speculating is where we get into trouble. Trying to guess when something's at the top or something's at the bottom is where we get in trouble. If you look at all the people who lost tons of their properties in 08, 9, and 10 in our area, they were or people I knew, they were going to Florida because Florida was hot and it was going up all the time, and they were going to go buy new constructions and it was going to appreciate to this amount. Well, that's a speculator. That's not truly an investor. And same thing with California people. They were coming to Texas because they were used to negative cash flows here in California. And so they didn't mind a negative cash flow in Texas until the negative cash flow was more than they could handle.
Yeah, right? that gets boring, or that can hurt very, very quickly. Even if you've only 3 or 4 houses, if they're burning a hole in your pocket every single month, that gets really annoying and really stressful very quickly and causes you to fire sale.
Any day you find a good deal, buy it. I don't care what the market's doing. I don't care what, and have a good strategy that keeps you safe. For us, it's the 70-30 loan to value ratio.
Like I say, if it's cash flowing, you don't need to panic sell. If rents drop 10% or 20% and you're still earning money, I mean, you can ride it out. I mean, I think with residential rentals, Linda, I found that a lot of people struggle to get past the first 2 or 3 deals. Most people are kind of mom and pop investors. Most rental properties are owned by people that own less than 5 rentals. And realistically, if you have 3 single family rentals, that doesn't throw off a lot of cash, even at a 70% mortgage. And there's big repairs from time to time. And so it's kind of difficult to see, well, where's the life-changing investment here? I'm losing money on some of these, some years, and other years I'm earning $1,000 over 8 months. I mean, what level of investment is necessary to create the kinds of passive income streams that you're talking about?
Well, that's a great point. And here's the point, Colin, even today, we're not living off of that income. we've never used that income for living. We've only
Mm-hmm.
used that income to keep, either paying off properties or, and you're right, at certain years, paying the taxes, getting our taxes paid. And that's with a constant battle to keep our tax rate low as we possibly could. So you're absolutely right. For us, the whole strategy was a 20-year plan. It wasn't, I need, if you're going to buy cash flow, there's other properties that you can get more cash flow in. A lot of people do flipping and they think they're actually doing cash flow. They might as well go sell another house or go to their job, because that flipping is only creating more cash flow. It's not creating the wealth and passive income
No.
that you're probably going to need someday. So you should probably have two plans. One, if I see some flips, I'll do those along the way, but I'm making sure I get enough hold properties that when they get paid off, I've got a substantial passive income stream. So I love that you brought that up, because we never depended on any of that money to live off of or to use the cash flow. It was purely a long-term play to have a passive stream someday when all of them are paid off.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's right. People might think when I have 5 houses paid off, that's, 7,000 a month and I can, quit my job or whatever. And realistically, you need to keep earning money, doing something you like doing, right? And the other stuff is a very long-term, but still life-changing plan.
Right. Either way, if you're young enough, our son has 2 or 3 rental properties already. He just turned 29, and
Mm-hmm.
they've got enough time. They can do theirs on 30 years, and one of theirs cash flows $800 a month. That's a great property.
Wow, it's fantastic.
Yeah. So if you're young enough, yes, but I would still encourage people, even if you're young enough and you're doing them on 30 years and they have more cash flow, don't use that money. Go put it back into either paying one off quicker or putting it for a down payment, let it build up for a down payment for another one. And if you don't, you got to do those shorter windows. Like my husband was 39. So we went on that 15, gave us 5 years to buy them, which we were at 20, right at 20 years, 5 years to buy them, and then a 15-year payout. That dictates your time. Your age is going to dictate your time, and how much money is going to dictate how many properties you get.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Is that what you generally try and do, to try and pay down your properties in 15, 20 years instead of waiting the full 30 years?
Every one of ours was on a 15, no more than a 20-year payout, every single one. We've never done one on 30 years, because by the time we started, again, he's 39, almost 40, we didn't really want to wait till he was 70. We wanted to say, hey, by 60, let's have this much passive money coming in. And, people ask us all the time, well, I'm this age, what do I do? Well, your window's shorter, or you take your money and you pay cash for something, and you look at it as an investment that way. Mm-hmm. But everybody needs to, that's why I said your freedom number is going to dictate how much money you want. And then if you're going to use real estate, your age is going to dictate what number of years you finance them on and have them paid off by. And that's kind of how you come up with your plan.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, so do you have any markets that you'd like to recommend for people that want to buy some rental properties? Do you have any markets that are good, or anything that you think is going to be cash flowing particularly well this year?
Well, we buy real close. We almost every one of we have right at like 80 something now single family homes. And because we've gotten rid of some of our more troubled properties, we were up to over 100. And we have 28 vacation rentals, and they're in Branson, Missouri, and we're in Texas. Mm-hmm. So we have a great girl on the ground there with those vacation rentals, right? We recommend you buy within a 30 to 45 minute radius of you first. Okay. Because the property if you need to. And then we only have bought out of our area. We bought a couple of properties down around Port Charlotte, because my husband's niece was managing them for us. So nice. Unless you have, our strategy is unless you have a who, we stay as close to our own territory as we possibly can, where we have who's who can handle the situations, because we don't want to handle the situations.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm a big fan of finding the who's to handle those situations. So that's a huge kind of passive, as a huge asset. You've built up a huge passive income stream that's flowing. What do you do for your active income then? Because you're saying you don't use that money that all those 80 properties throw off. What do you do? What's your day job?
Our day job, well, I don't sell real estate anymore. I built a very successful real estate team that I turned over to my brother-in-law. He's ran it for 20 years. So it turned into a true business, not a job. And so we use the cash flow from that and the freedom of my time to go build a region for Keller Williams Realty in the Ohio Valley, which is Southern Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky. We are the number one profit share earners. Keller Williams has a profit share plan where each office agrees to share their profits back with any associate or agent who actually helps them grow. And so because we were super influential and we just have learned how to build great relationships in the real estate business, we're the number one profit share earners. And that made us about 1.3 million last year. So
Wow.
those are our, we now are selling my real estate practice to my brother-in-law. So we got him on a payout. So that's money coming in. We have a portion of two regions. Actually, we own a portion of the region you're in with the Ubaldinis in Tampa, in South Florida. We own the Ohio Valley region, so that brings in royalties. And so we're doing great for cash flow. We don't need, remember those real estate investments were our backup plan, right?
Yeah.
And you never know when you're going to need a backup plan. And so now what we do as the money is growing bigger and bigger, we just pay off another property.
That's amazing. So you effectively own these businesses that are full of realtors and brokers working hard, selling properties, and you're getting paid as a business owner. I mean, how much is that a very time intensive job for you? I mean, how many hours a week would you say you need to oversee those businesses?
Well, because we've been, again, coached by Gary Keller, it's always about the who, right? And Dan's new book, Who Not How, explains this also. It's a fabulous book.
Fabulous book.
But the truth is, it's all about the right people. So, we have 6 Keller Williams offices. They're all run by a CEO called a team leader. Mm-hmm. And then the regions are run by what we call a regional director that we've hired, and an area director and a regional operations manager. So those people, just like our 80-something properties, are managed by a girl that's her one thing. That's her job. And then we have our vacation rentals by another girl that moved up to there so that she could handle that business. And most of them, we pay them a salary plus a percentage or an override of what they can grow it to. So we got growers and territory takers and wealth builders in those spots that's their one thing to make sure those things are growing. So it's not really labor intensive for us unless we lose one of those people, and then we got to get busy and go find somebody else.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it's so impressive. And it sounds like a lot of fun as well to be working with all these great people and watching them grow.
Well, it is fun when you get to do the thing that is your unique ability and your thing that you're good at. It's not fun when you start doing all the things that you stink at, but because you don't have someone that it's their one thing, right?
Yeah, that is very true. Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up soon. This has been such a fun conversation, Linda. What you've achieved is so impressive, and you're still going strong. I mean, so what before we finish up, what other kind of actionable tips do you have for people that want to take more control of their financial future and wealth building?
I would say start with your freedom number. And I'm happy to offer a text in number, Colin, if it's okay with you, that they can actually one. If they will text to the number 33444, the word freedom number together as if it was one word, they can actually get the worksheet. Start there with your significant other or whoever's super important to you in your life or has to be a part of this plan. Mm-hmm. And I know sometimes people aren't always on the same page with each other on that stuff. So try to get together on those numbers and what's important, and then work your plan backwards. And to have a big life, it takes courage. And this is something I learned from Dan, which you and I know from Strategic Coach. And if you look at places in your life, Colin, where your life really got big, you had to do something that took a lot of courage. You had to make a commitment that was scary. And once you made that commitment and it was scary and you were encouraged, which is a horrible place to be, it's so uncomfortable. The reason it took courage is because you didn't have all the credentials when you started, right? You cannot wait till you have all the credentials. But what happens is because of that courage is needed and because you will figure it out, you go get the credentials and then you're going to get more confidence. And then as long as you don't get complacent, you just go out and make bigger commitments each time, right? And know that it's going to be uncomfortable, but know that it's going to get easier and easier because you're building on those credentials and that confidence that you didn't have until you did it. And then I would say the next thing is, you know, you can go to a mortgage company, and I think the number now is what, 8 or 10 that you can get is the limit. Go there first, you know, and then go find a local community bank after that. A lot of people get stumbled on, how do you get so many properties? Well, we got our, back then, I think it was maybe 10 was the limit through a Fort Worth mortgage is what it was called. They eventually got sold, I think, to Colonial Savings or vice versa. So you get that money in place, and then you go find you a local community banker who wants investments back in the community, and you show them your real estate investing floor plan, you know, business plan.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, you get those kind of things in a row, and then you find a property manager in your area and find out what's the price they wish they had 100 more rental houses in. And that's where you go buy your houses in the beginning.
That's amazing. It's fantastic advice, all of it. But I love the bit about the loans, because there's a lot of people, and I don't get it, but the reason they don't want to get started is because they don't know what to do after the 8th or 9th property. And I'm saying, well, don't worry about that. Get up to 8 properties and then figure out the next step. Don't be worried about how to get the 12th property when you're only on your first. I mean, you're, you know, one step at a time here. You'll figure it out. There's lots of people that can help you.
Yeah, go when you're about 60 or 70% sure of how it's all going to happen. You can't wait till it's 100% sure I got it all planned out. You know, go at 60, 70, or 80, because you learn when you're in motion. You don't learn when you're, you know, standing still. We learn the most when we're moving.
Yeah, that is very true. And I think that's a very nice note to end the conversation on, Linda. Thank you so much. If people want to reach out and contacted you, is there a way of doing it? Do you have a website or anything?
Sure. I have a website called Linda McKissack, and that last name is McKissack at lindamckisack.com. You can get me there, or you can reach me at info@lindamckisack.com. You can download the Freedom number. It'll also kind of put you in our database and let you know what we got going on. We do plan on doing an investment online course a little bit later this year, and we'll do monthly calls with people to kind of help guide them through all that, just like we're doing with our profit share program right now. And then I have a podcast called Everything Life and Real Estate, and they're certainly welcome to listen to me there.
Perfect. I will put all that in the show notes, and I'll check them out myself. Linda, thanks again. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you. Nice talking to you, Colin.
There you go, folks. That was Linda McKissack in Colin Podcasting About Real Estate Show 39. What an impressive lady. What a really nice lady. Just the kind of person I would love to have in my life as a kind of a mentor or a colleague, or somebody that would be great kind of guiding you in your career, or guiding you through any major turning points that you're making with your investments, or any major pivots that you're doing, as she has relied on other people over the years. You know, like Dan Sullivan and Gary Keller. These are major players, very famous people. So I really liked her. I liked how she boiled down what it took to do it. And I think the two key takeaways that are extremely actionable and extremely applicable to anybody's lives in real estate and beyond is, number one, the importance of goal setting, just spending time, quiet time with your spouse, ideally thinking about where you want to be in 3, 5, 10 years time, and working backwards from there to decide what it's going to take to get there, and is the prize at the end of it worth the work and the suffering it takes. Because if you have that prize in mind, it often is worth the work and the stress. If you just experience that stress and strife along the way, it is easy to get distracted and just stop whatever it is you're doing. So I think that is key, and anybody can do that, and anybody can apply that. Just take an hour here, an hour there, and just try and map it out, ideally with your spouse, and work backwards. And then the second major takeaway, which is very related to the first one, is that once you do have an understanding of where you want to go, talk to people that can help you on your journey. Network with people. Do not try and figure it all out yourself, because it'll take 10 times longer if you ever get there. So, you know, network with people, find mentors, talk to people. It can be free, it can be paid, both are fine, but you do need to work with people to help you to achieve your goals. I do believe that very strongly. I've had plenty of of help along the way, and I'm just going to accelerate that. I'm going to need even more help in my 40s than I did in my 30s. I'm going to continue more help, and obviously I'm able to help some people now as well, which I really enjoy doing. And just go to colininvestments.com, COLIN investments.com, and click on schedule a call, or email me if you think I can help you with something. I'm happy to do that. But that's it. Just, and don't be kind of linked to these goals either. The goals are just something to aim at. They're not written in stone. It just gives you something to achieve. It gives you a purpose. I think people are happiest and most satisfied in general when they have a defined purpose. People, it isn't it isn't the short-term happiness. It isn't the 3-day vacation or the fancy meal. That's all well and good, but I think the real satisfaction, the real happiness you get in life is from having a purpose, something to strive towards, and the satisfaction from achieving it, and then going on to the next thing after that, and just continuing along. That's how you live a full life, I think. But anyway, I don't know. What do I know? But that's my opinion on it. Anyway, I think that's as good a recipe as any. So thanks again for tuning in. And if you do enjoy these shows, please, I would be honored if you could share an episode with your network of friends and family. If you could leave me a review or a rating on the Apple Store or Google Store or wherever you watch it, that really helps get the word out and really helps make the show more visible to the widest possible audience. I have a great audience. It's growing phenomenally all over the world. So anything you can do to help with that is greatly appreciated. And I will be back very soon, guys, for show 40. But this is me signing out today. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.